Have you ever noticed how the ones who smile the most in your presence are sometimes the same ones quietly working against you when you're not around? They appear supportive, kind, even loyal. But if you pay close attention, their actions tell a very different story. They share what you confided in private. They twist your words to fit a narrative that serves them. And when something finally falls apart, they disappear. No explanation, no closure, just silence and betrayal. It's like trusting a rope that looks sturdy until the moment you truly need it and it snaps. Or offering shade to someone who slowly cuts down the tree they sit beneath. The damage isn't always loud, it's subtle. It builds quietly until one break ends everything. And sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. No confrontation, no chaos, just distance, just peace. So how do you handle someone who backstabs you without shouting, without chasing, without losing yourself in the process? Stay with me, because the way you respond reveals more about your character than theirs ever could. Let's begin. 1. Observe in silence. One of the hardest things to process is betrayal from someone who pretends to stand beside you. It might be a colleague, a friend, even a family member. To your face, they nod, smile, offer praise. But behind closed doors, they gossip, they sabotage, they quietly celebrate your setbacks. Your first instinct might be to call them out, to expose the truth, to make sure everyone sees what you've seen. But here's the truth. You don't need to do any of that. You don't need to react. You don't need revenge. You need perspective. Because in time, people always reveal who they truly are. Their envy shows in their choices, their dishonesty in the way they speak. Their inconsistencies start to build piece by piece, and that's where silence becomes your greatest strength. Seneca once said, "Time discovers truth. Let it." When you step back, calm, steady, and quiet, what's real will always rise to the surface. Their own actions will speak louder than anything you could ever say. Let me share a story. There was a woman, let's call her Melissa. She worked at a creative agency, smart, talented, focused. She had a colleague, Dana, charming, helpful, always smiling. But Melissa began to notice subtle patterns. Dana would echo her ideas in meetings, word for word, undermine her subtly in front of others. And when confronted, she'd act confused, surprised. "Oh, I didn't mean it that way." Melissa didn't react. She didn't argue. She simply stopped oversharing. She created space. And she started paying attention. There was no need for drama. The truth spoke for itself. Dana's mask slipped, without Melissa ever raising her voice. So how do you handle backstabbers without confronting them? First, don't react emotionally. That's what they want. Your chaos validates their mask. Second, withdraw access. They feed off your openness, cut off the supply. Third, let time reveal what words can't. Observe, document if necessary, and trust the process. Because someone who operates in shadows will eventually be exposed by the light of time. You don't need to force clarity. You don't need to beg for justice. You just need to hold your ground. Stay composed. Protect your peace. And when the truth finally shows, it always does, believe it. Let their silence confirm everything they never had the courage to say. And walk away with your dignity untouched. Because some betrayals don't deserve confrontation. They deserve distance, too. Protect your peace, not their feelings. Let's talk about something many people wrestle with after being betrayed. How to walk away without guilt. You catch someone speaking behind your back, undermining your trust, pretending to support you, while quietly hoping you fall. And yet, when it's time to protect yourself, to pull back, something in you hesitates. You worry about seeming rude, too cold, too dramatic. You second-guess yourself. Maybe I'm overreacting. I don't want to make things awkward. But let's be honest. You are not obligated to make someone feel comfortable after they betrayed your trust. You don't owe them continued access to your world simply because they once had it. And you certainly don't owe them the benefit of the doubt after they've already shown you who they really are. Instead of arguing, instead of putting on a brave face or creating conflict, just withdraw. Quietly. Completely. No drama. No explanation. Just distance. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. Because the moment trust is broken, the relationship changes. Even if you never say a word. And here's what most people don't realize. You can step away without justifying yourself. You can protect your peace without softening the blow for someone who didn't consider your peace when they betrayed you. That's not bitterness. That's wisdom. This is where Stoic philosophy offers strength. Epictetus said, "Peace is found not in avoiding conflict, but in controlling your response to it." You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to make a scene. You don't even need closure. All you need is a clear decision to stop giving energy to someone who used it against you. That's how you regain your power. That's how you preserve your peace. A story to remember. There's a woman I know. Let's call her Rachel. So she was part of a close friend group. But one day, she found out from someone she trusted that another friend, Stephanie, had been mocking her behind her back. Mocking her choices, her personality, while smiling to her face. Rachel felt betrayed. But instead of confronting Stephanie, instead of trying to get even, she chose stillness. She stopped texting, stopped showing up, stopped explaining. Just let the silence grow. At first, Stephanie acted innocent, checking in, pretending to care, asking if something was wrong. But Rachel didn't explain herself. She didn't need to. The message was clear. Betrayal has consequences, even if they're quiet. 3. Stop feeding them information. Let's talk about one of the most powerful, overlooked strategies when dealing with backstabbers, shutting off the supply. See, not all betrayal is loud. Some of it hides behind smiles and friendly questions. How have you been? What are you working on? Who do you trust? It sounds like connection, but it's not. It's collection, ammunition for later. They're not trying to understand you. They're storing your words like arrows, just waiting for the moment to aim them back at you. So here's your move. Stop feeding them information. No announcement, no drama, just go quiet. Keep it surface level. Keep it short. If they ask how you are, just busy. If they press for details, still figuring things out. Shift the dynamic, not through confrontation, but through calm withdrawal, because silence is your shield. The less they know, the less they can twist. When someone shows you, they'll use your vulnerability against you. Withholding isn't petty, it's self-respect. Think of it like this. Would you give your house key to someone who already tried breaking in? Of course not. So why keep handing them the keys to your emotional world? Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're protection. And with people who've betrayed your trust, silence becomes your loudest statement. A real story. There's a man I know. Let's call him Ethan. At work, he had a colleague, Brandon. They got along well. Lunch breaks, personal conversations, shared ideas. But over time, Ethan noticed something. Whenever he confided something, frustrations, future plans, vulnerabilities, it somehow resurfaced, twisted, shared, used in ways that didn't sit right. So Ethan pulled back. He didn't accuse Brandon, didn't make a scene, he just stopped sharing. Over time, Brandon's influence faded. Without new material to work with, the manipulation stopped. Stoic wisdom on silence. Marcus Aurelius taught us a crucial truth. Don't share your soul with someone who treats it like a weapon. A Stoic doesn't just guard their peace, they guard their mind, their energy, their trust. Because when someone has proven they will misuse what you give them, pulling back isn't weakness, it's clarity. Personal boundaries are quiet, but powerful. There's a moment of realization that shifts everything. For Ethan, it came quietly. Personal things he'd only shared in private began surfacing in conversations he never expected. Jokes repeated out of context, comments twisted, details about projects that were never supposed to leave his lips, suddenly known by others. That's when it clicked. Brandon wasn't just listening, he was leaking. But Ethan didn't confront him. He didn't make a scene. He simply made a shift. He stopped talking. He remained polite but distant. No hostility, no drama, just calm withdrawal. And over time, Brandon's influence faded. Because there was nothing left to misuse. How do you handle a backstabber? Without conflict. You cut off the supply. You starve them of what they need most. Access. You don't lash out. You don't offer warnings. You don't beg for honesty. You simply go quiet. You speak less, share less, trust less. Not because you're bitter, but because you've learned. Because silence in the face of betrayal isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's control. And once you stop feeding a backstabber your words, your trust, your presence, they lose the weapon they were counting on. Let your stillness become your strategy. Let your distance become your defense. Fourth, let their guilt speak louder than you ever could. Here's something most people never consider. Silence can be the most punishing response of all. When someone betrays you, they usually brace for one of two things: an explosion or a confrontation. They're ready for the text, the argument, the fallout. Why? Because if you lash out, they get to feel like the victim. They get to reframe the narrative. They get to justify what they did. But when you give them nothing, no anger, no explanation, no closure, that's when the guilt starts to echo. The truth is, a guilty mind doesn't need your punishment. It becomes its own. They may pretend they don't care, act like everything is fine, but deep down, they know. And when you respond with silence, not out of weakness but out of wisdom, their conscience does the work for you. They replay what happened, over and over. Did they find out? Do they know what I did? Why haven't they said anything? That silence becomes a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see in it. Seneca said it best. The guilty mind punishes itself far more than any enemy ever could. Let me share a story. There's a woman I know, we'll call her Megan. She once confided something deeply personal to a coworker named Lisa, something she had never told anyone else. Weeks later, fragments of that story started circulating through the office, twisted, distorted. But Megan knew exactly where it had come from. She could have confronted Lisa, sent a message, made it known. But she didn't. Instead, she chose something stronger. Stillness. No outburst, no drama, no cold shoulder. She simply stopped engaging. She withdrew, gracefully but completely. She left Lisa to sit with the space where connection used to be. Months later, Megan received an email. A long one, an apology. Lisa admitted the silence had been harder than confrontation, that the guilt had made her avoid mirrors, avoid conversations, avoid herself. And Megan, she didn't reply, because the silence had already said what words never could. So, how do you handle a backstabber without ever lifting a finger? You let them hear the echo of their own conscience. You let them wonder why you never said a word. You let them sit in the void they created. No closure, no conflict, just the silence that speaks for itself. Because some lessons don't need to be taught with words. They're learned through absence. Your silence isn't avoidance, it's power. At the end of the day, choosing silence isn't a sign of weakness. It's a demonstration of strength. When you walk away without a word, your dignity walks with you, and their guilt follows them. And that guilt, it's heavier than any confrontation could ever be. You don't need to shout. You don't need to justify. Just by stepping back, you say more than words ever could. If this message has resonated with you, leave a comment with "Thank God" below, and give this video a like to support the channel. Your encouragement fuels more content like this, and I'm grateful we're learning and growing together. Thank you for being here. 5. Reinforce your boundaries. Without explanation. Let's talk about something rarely taught but deeply important: how to walk away without explaining yourself. When someone betrays you, the world often expects a performance, a dramatic conversation, a loud ending, or, at the very least, an explanation. But the truth is this: when someone crosses your boundary, you don't owe them a map back into your life. You don't need to explain why you stopped calling, why you stopped showing up, or why your energy shifted. Because your silence, your composure, and your absence already speak for you. Sometimes boundaries aren't announced, they're felt. When you quietly close a door without slamming it, you send a message louder than any argument could. I saw what you did. I felt the shift. And I will not give you another chance to repeat it. No theatrics, no resentment, just distance. And that is real power. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes your compass. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." So when someone proves, through their actions, that they can't be trusted, why keep offering them access to your time, energy, or space? You're not responsible for correcting their behavior. You're responsible for protecting your peace. And that doesn't require confrontation. It just requires clarity. A story that says it all. There's a man I know. Let's call him Eric. He used to be close with a friend named Paul. They shared life together, workouts, dinners, double dates. But one day, Eric learned something that changed everything. Paul had taken something deeply personal that Eric shared in confidence, and not only spread it, but twisted it to make him look foolish. Eric didn't explode. He didn't accuse. He didn't even ask why. He just stepped back, stopped responding, stopped inviting, stopped engaging. And when they did cross paths, he remained civil, but distant. Paul reached out, asked what was wrong, tried to fix things. But Eric never responded. Because the moment trust is broken, the relationship changes. Explaining that would have only reopened wounds better left closed. So, how do you reinforce a boundary without saying a word? 1. Trust your experience. If something felt off, it was. 2. Don't give space for justification. Someone who crossed your line doesn't need a platform. They need distance. 3. Remember, true strength doesn't come from anger. It comes from absence. At the end of the day, you don't owe an explanation for choosing peace. You don't need to convince them they were wrong. Your silence is enough. Let your energy speak where your words no longer need to. Protect your space, guard your peace, and let your quiet distance be the clearest boundary of all. 6. Grow so much. They become irrelevant. Let's talk about the most powerful, most overlooked way to respond to someone who's wronged you. You outgrow them, quietly, consistently, completely, while some waste energy chasing revenge. The Stoic chooses a higher path, not one fueled by anger, not one fueled by spite, but by purpose. You evolve so deeply, so intentionally, that even if they tried, they couldn't reach you. Their betrayal no longer pulls you back. It becomes irrelevant. Because here's what backstabbers never expect: that you won't sink, that you won't spiral, that you won't beg for answers or fight for clarity. Instead, you rise, you focus, you evolve. And while they're hoping you'll be caught in the storm they created, you're already walking into the sunlight of your next chapter. They expected you to break, but you rebuilt, stronger, wiser, quieter. Seneca once said, "Rise above, so even your enemies must look up to see you." That's Stoic revenge, not in retaliation, but in transformation. It's when you become so grounded, so centered in your purpose, that their drama becomes background noise, barely audible compared to your momentum. It's when their betrayal doesn't destroy you, it refines you. Let me share a story. There's a man I know, we'll call him Brian. In his early 30s, Brian co-founded a project with someone he trusted, a friend, a partner, Tyler. They shared ideas, built a vision, made plans. But without warning, Tyler took their shared work, pitched it alone, and shut Brian out. It was devastating, the kind of betrayal that could make you stop believing in people. But Brian made a decision. No confrontation, no revenge plot, no public call-out. He just disappeared into the work. He gathered the lessons, started over, new circle, new foundation, new vision. For 2 years, he built in silence, not just his business, but his identity. And when he reemerged, he didn't just catch up to where they left off, he surpassed it. Tyler watches from a distance now. No words exchanged, no closure needed, just growth, so clear, so undeniable, it silences every lie. So how do you handle a backstabber without ever confronting them? You grow, quietly, relentlessly, with discipline, with peace. You stop explaining, you stop looking back, you stop trying to prove anything. You turn your pain into precision, your silence into strength, your focus into fuel, and you build a life so fulfilling, so elevated, that their betrayal doesn't even register. At the end of the day, the best revenge isn't making them hurt. It's becoming someone so whole, so at peace, that their absence feels like nothing. So rise, expand, outgrow the noise, and let your life become the loudest thing they never expected to hear. 7. Don't let them steal your character. Let's talk about the part of betrayal most people overlook. The part that doesn't just wound you, it tempts you to become someone you're not. When someone stabs you in the back, when they twist your words, gossip in silence, or try to undermine you, it hurts. And before you even notice, a dangerous thought creeps in. Maybe I should do the same. That's where it starts, not with revenge, but with a slow erosion of your integrity, disguised as self-defense. But here's what the Stoics understood deeply. The real danger of betrayal isn't just what they do to you. It's what you might be tempted to do to yourself. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Your power is always in your response, not in their behavior, not in their lies, but in your ability to stay rooted in who you are. Because the moment you stoop to their level, you're not punishing them, you're compromising you, your peace, your clarity, your dignity. All of it traded for a moment of emotional reaction. And in doing so, you step into the very mud they wanted to pull you into. A story of quiet strength. There's a woman I know, we'll call her Rachel. She worked at a nonprofit she cared deeply about. Late nights, extra effort, creative ideas, total dedication. But there was someone else, Diana. Polite in meetings, but behind the scenes, sabotage. She took credit for Rachel's ideas, spread rumors, turned colleagues against her slowly and quietly. When Rachel found out, her first instinct was revenge. She drafted emails. She vented to close friends. She even considered confronting her publicly. But then, she paused. Not because Diana deserved grace, but because Rachel realized something deeper. If she started fighting the same way Diana did, she'd be proving her right. That she could be shaken, that she could be dragged down. So instead of fighting, she focused. She stayed silent. She worked smarter. She documented everything. She built relationships with leadership. And most importantly, she never let go of her integrity. In the end, Rachel was promoted. Diana wasn't. No shouting, no confrontation, just clarity, just truth, revealed quietly over time. So how do you handle a backstabber? Without confrontation. You don't feed the fire. You don't match their energy. You rise. You hold your tongue. You move with calm intention. You let your actions speak, and your composure becomes the loudest message they ever receive. Because here's the truth. If they take your peace, and you let them take your character too, they win twice. But if you stay grounded, if you protect your dignity, if you walk away clean, you don't just survive the betrayal, you transcend it. Your character is your legacy. Don't let anyone write it for you. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more Stoic insights on strength, self-mastery, and living with intention.